I'm sitting there in the cockpit, dumb and happy. And all of a sudden, these guys start screaming and pointing and running towards the airplane. And I'm starting to freak out. And my supervisor's down there. He spoke Spanish, so he's talking to him. And he comes over and he tells me to get down. And I'm like, no. What is their problem?
Yeah.
And he goes, they've never seen a woman working on airplanes.
And welcome back to Vegas Veteran Voices, the podcast where we do things a little bit differently, talking to vets who do unique things for either passion, purpose, or therapy. Today we are talking with Bobi Pike-Oates, a legend here in the Valley, retired senior master sergeant. We're going to talk to her, dive into it. So, Bobi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. And you?
I'm doing great. So, thank you for joining us here. We are at the Parlor Coffee Shop here in downtown Las Vegas. And it's a blessing. Thank you guys so much for allowing us to come here. So, Bobi, tell me a little bit about your experience with the Air Force. I know you spent a lot of time in the Air Force, and I want to hear about your journey.
23 years in the Air Force.
23 years is it's crazy.
Yes, especially when I came in 1976.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just starting to open up more career fields for women.
Yeah.
And I had been a deputy sheriff, and I wanted to be a security forces. And they go, no, we have something much more challenging, aircraft maintenance. I'm like, okay. I could lift a 20-pound toolbox because I'm a farm girl. I was raised on a farm. So hard work, that wasn't a problem. And they said, well, we have one in Chanute, Illinois, and that's for heavies. And then there's fighters in Texas. I'm like, Chanute, close to Vermont, could travel back and forth. So I'm like, okay. I get my orders and I'm going to Wichita Falls, Texas. And I go, what is there?
Yeah.
And it was fighters.
Yeah.
So we took the long day bus trip from San Antonio, Texas, all the way up to Wichita Falls, Texas. Got there. They had really nice 1,000-man dorms and stuff. We got put in old World War II barracks.
Oh my gosh.
They had started to expand maintenance, and these were buildings they had, which there was a plus to it because everything didn't have to be spit shined.
Yeah.
So you had the old linoleum, the old bathrooms. So you kept it clean, but it wasn't mirror clean.
It's not modern day Air Force.
No.
With the dorms and everything. No.
Definitely not. Definitely not. I got there 4th of July weekend. They put me in a room and said, don't unpack because you're going to move after the holiday. And I'm like, okay. So they had a big fireworks show. That was the first time I'd ever seen a big major fireworks display.
Oh, that's so cool then.
So that was really neat. But I was a little concerned because that was Tornado Alley, and I'm from northern Vermont. We have snow, we have rain, but no tornadoes or anything. So I was there 4th of July weekend, and I left the middle of September. The only thing we had to deal with was rain. A couple days we marched up to our knees in rain. But other than that, no tornadoes, no really bad weather.
I mean, that's a plus because that's right there in that area
right
where everything just kind of converges.
I know. We were really lucky. We had there was a couple girls in my class. I don't know whatever happened to them because unfortunately they set a lot of girls up to fail when they started putting gals in maintenance.
Yeah.
We had one was an LPN. She had 3 nervous breakdowns. I don't know what happened to her. They put her somewhere. When I got to Spain, my first duty assignment, I was on F4 aircraft. This gal that was about 4 or 5, they made her an egress troop for an F4, which the seat rails on an F4 are closer to 6 feet tall, and you would have to lift the seat up over the rails to get it out of the airplane. There's no way she could have done that.
No.
So a lot of girls didn't stick with it, but I didn't think I was going to stay with it. But then the next thing I knew, it was 23 years later. Yeah. And I stayed in maintenance the whole time.
Time has a unique way of doing things when you're in the military. Like 4 years is just like that. And then by the end of it, you realize, oh, it's my time to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I just, I re-enlisted. I wanted to go to school. And then I just kept re-enlisting. and just stayed. But yeah, I worked airplanes. When I made staff sergeant, I was in Arizona. They said didn't need female staff sergeants on the flight line.
Yeah.
I went to maintenance control, which gave me a bigger picture of what was going on. Then I worked in supervision. I worked on the flight line again for a while. Then it came time they closed down Williams Air Force Base. And at the time, my husband was working for the contractor.
Yeah.
So I couldn't stay as a quality assurance inspector. So a friend of mine, I was headed to Castle Air Force Base on B-52s.
Mm-hmm.
I made master. I called them. I said, I made master. They go, we've got too many of them. I go, okay. A friend of mine was in outside of San Antonio. He was getting ready to retire. Threw my name in the hat for a job down there. So I went down for the flight screening program, which was a quality assurance evaluator. We had civilians that worked on the plane, so we just followed up on their maintenance.
Yeah.
So I went to Texas and I re-enlisted down there. And 5 days later, I got orders for Osan, Korea.
That's the way it works.
And it's like, I want to do 20. I can't turn them down.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Osan, Korea, got divorced, met my husband over there. I was his quality assurance inspector. He was in the parachute shop. They gave me fabrication flight and transit alert. I'm like, okay, TA, I know, working on airplanes, crash recovery. Fabrication flight, you drop stuff off, you pick it up, it's fixed. The sheet metal, the metals tech folks, paint shop, NDI, and those. So I had to learn what they did. So, but it was good. I tried to be a fair inspector. I never would go in to burn anybody. That was not my objective.
Yeah.
I was there learning too, and it was like, if it's a safety infraction, that's a problem. One day I was out on the line, I saw a couple of my transit alert troops out there. They were parked in front of an airplane, truck running out of the truck. And I'm like, hey guys. And they're like, yeah. I says, warning. I went back the next day, same two guys, same place, same truck, running out of it. And I go, you know what I got to do? They go, yeah, you got to write us up. I go, you were given a warning. So we had one of the inspector for the engine shop. He was told that the troops for the engine shop caught him off base. They're going to beat the shit out of him. Because his objective was to just burn everybody. And that's not right. And being in maintenance, if you get an inspector like that, that's, it's counterproductive.
Yeah, it is, because there needs to be that give and take of getting things done by the book and then getting things done correctly, but a little bit faster in order to make sorties. Otherwise, the birds don't fly. Exactly.
And so you just got to give a little give and take. There's kind of that gray area, some things are black and white, but a lot of time it's a gray area. You got to make the mission.
Yes.
And got to get those planes in the air. So
awesome. Well, with that, Bobby, we're going to take a brief break.
Okay.
And then we're going to get rocking and rolling. I want to hear about your life before you put on the military uniform and talk about your law enforcement side.
Okay.
I want to hear about your experience in childhood. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in northern Vermont. I was about 10 miles south of the Canadian border, right on Lake Champlain. And when I say right on Lake Champlain, we were probably about 30 feet from the lake with a 20-foot drop off.
Yeah.
A couple years back, I took my husband back for my 50th high school reunion, and he said, you said you were raised on the lake. I didn't think you meant in the lake. I'm like, no, we were actually the people that had bought the house from my folks in 78 were still there. So I was able to take them through. Of course, they've done a lot of changes, but some of the property was still the same.
Yeah. So,
I just went to high school there. Winters were rough. It always never failed. Come midterms, always blizzards. It's just typical winters. Wind blowing off the lake and everything. Raised on a farm. We had about 300 cows with my grandfather and my uncle. They ran the farm. And I decided I wanted to go into law enforcement. I had a cousin that was a state trooper, but I just decided that was something I wanted to do. So one summer I interned at the local sheriff's department. And then I found out there was 2 colleges in Vermont that offered a law enforcement program. One was in Burlington and one was further down in the state. So I went to the one in Burlington. It was kind of a private school at the time. It was called Champlain College. And at the time it was only a 2-year program. Now they're offering 4-year master's degrees. I mean, the college has expanded like crazy. And I got a job working in another county in the sheriff's department as a dispatcher. And that's mostly what I did, was dispatching and jailer. So when they'd bring guys in, throw them in jail. We had one kid one night. He was drunk as a skunk. His dad came to pick him up the next morning. I couldn't get the jail cell open. I mean, it was one of those old ones, and the kid's in there freaking out, and his dad's like, ah. finally got it open. But at the time, I wanted to join a regular city police department. But in the 70s, it was men requirements, 5'7", 5'8". I was only 5'3". So a state trooper friend of mine had spent 4 years in the Air Force and said, why don't you join the Air Force? Just get away from here, because, there is no hope for advancement or improvement. So I'm like, so the first time I went to the recruiter, I kind of backed out of it. But the second time I followed through. And actually my maintenance scores were my lowest scores, but that's when they were putting gals into maintenance. So it didn't matter. You could lift that toolbox. So I did that. Got a first duty assignment at Torrejon, Spain. Everybody's like, how did you get that? And I go, we have bases in Spain? Because all you ever heard was like England and Germany. So went to Torrejon, and it was a Spanish base. They did not have the American flag flying. And the Spaniards ran the security. And they had Spanish airplanes on half of the ramp. It was a year after Franco had died, so the country was... a lot of turmoil was going on, because, I mean, they'd been under dictators, starting to get some freedom. We were told, if you see big crowds, go the opposite way. The Guardia Civil, there's civilian police with their funny little caps and black capes. And it's like, if you see one, there's another one close by, and they have little submachine guns. So, So, as a little one striper, it's like, okay, travel in groups. I worked heavy maintenance on F4s. I did landing gears, flight controls, canopies, and crash recovery. And one day we had a Spanish F4 come in with an in-flight emergency, so we responded, and we had to tow them back to their parking spot. So I rode brakes. As we're pulling into the parking spot, I'm sitting there in the cockpit, dumb and happy, and all of a sudden these guys start screaming and pointing and running towards the airplane, and I'm starting to freak out. And my supervisor's down there, he spoke Spanish, so he's talking to him, and he comes over and he tells me to get down, and I'm like, no, what is their problem? And he goes, they've never seen a woman working on airplanes.
Oh, they just wanted to talk to you?
This was in 76, 77. Women didn't work on airplanes. And so here was this woman in one of their airplanes. So it's like, okay, that's enough of that. So actually I extended, because I wanted to get to Arizona. My folks had moved from Vermont to Arizona for my dad's health. And so I extended another 6 months to get an assignment to Arizona. And I'm glad I did, because if I had come back when the other guys did, I would have been in Del Rio, Texas, the armpit of Texas. So I was like, okay. So I got to Arizona. Unfortunately, my dad died, but I went up to the base, and I got to Arizona, and it was in Tucson, and it's like, okay, this is the West. This is what Arizona is. As we started driving north to Mesa and to Phoenix, it's like, there's orchards, there's cotton fields, there's mountains and stuff. So, I mean, Arizona was different, but it was nice. I mean, you could just, a couple hours be anywhere for whatever kind of weather you wanted. So I lucked out. I was there for 10 years. My husband, he came, we got married. He was able to get to Arizona. Like I said, I worked the flight line for a while, then went up to maintenance control, and then did a few other things. And when the base shut, it went to contract maintenance, and so I had to leave. So, but it worked out. It was there's a lot of things going on, and it was a good thing to get out of there, and then to get to Texas was different. We picked up our vehicles in San Antonio, and then we drove out to Hondo, Texas, was an hour west. So we would drive out there every day, and there were two nice things. Halfway out in Castroville, there was a nice little German bakery. So some mornings we would stop for the German bakery. And then in the summers coming back, on the other side of the road was a Dairy Queen. So it's like, sometimes we'd stop and get a Dairy Queen. But So it was like an hour either way. And we had military pilots who were instructors, but they also had civilian pilots.
Yeah.
But we couldn't, as the enlisted, we couldn't fly with the military pilots. We could only fly with the civilian pilots.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was, I don't know why the rules were like that. So if the pilots, we were actually assigned to Randolph, which was another 2 hours across town.
Yeah.
If we had to go over there, we would have to drive our vehicles, but the pilots could just hop in a 172 and fly over. So I was like, nah, that wasn't fair.
Yeah.
But I re-enlisted, orders for Osan, Korea, went there, got there, got to LAX.
Mm-hmm.
They said our flight was leaving at 2 a.m. There was a whole plane load of people. And we're sitting there and people go, well, why are you here? We go, well, we're waiting on a plane for Korea. And they go, no, that doesn't leave for 2 more days. You should have checked with your travel office. And one of the guys there had come from Nellis, said, I was there this morning and they said my flight was leaving.
Yeah.
So we had the option. We could either spend 2 nights in LA.
Mm-hmm.
I flew back to Phoenix to repack and whatever. So, yeah, that was crazy. Get there. I didn't even know what job I was going to have because every time I'd call, the phone would cut out.
Yeah.
You know, back in the early 90s, overseas calls weren't like they are now.
Mm-hmm.
So, got there. They picked me up, told me I was going to QA, and they took me off base to a hotel and said, this is where you're staying. We'll come get you in the morning. I'm like, okay, strange hotel. I says, you know, when can I get on base? It took me 6 months to get on base.
Yeah.
I changed hotels. I finally got one that was outside the base because the first hotel I'd have to walk through the alleys to get to it. That wasn't too cool in the winter.
No.
But so it was interesting.
Yeah.
It was different. I'd never been there. My only regret is I never got up to the DMZ.
Oh.
I never made it up to the DMZ because the first 5 months I was there, all I was doing was our tech orders. They had reorganized maintenance like 4 times and nobody had touched a technical order. And so I was going through updating all technical orders for like 5 months. And I didn't really have any friends to go up with. So after I met my current husband, he actually did go up after I left Korea. His mom came over, so they went up. I was like, well, that was nice. But
have you ever thought about going back?
No.
No?
No. There's crazy people over there now. Well, it was even when I was there, it was like, you know, the news media in the States would get all freaked out. And you know, my mom would, you know, write, is everything okay?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, everything's cool. But when I came back and Scott was still there, I would do the same thing. Hey, are you okay? You know, because I'm hearing this stuff on the news. My next door neighbor worked in special ops, and he would say, if you get up and we're gone, you need to start worrying.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. We had an 0600 wake up every morning. The U-2s would take off because they were stationed over there. Yeah, it was fun. And we had the sirens go off one day for an exercise. And nobody knew about it because usually you'd have a heads up something was going to happen. Yeah. Well, the wing commander's wife, she got all mad because they didn't know about it. We were like, ah. And I'd already turned in my chem gear, so I'm like, oh no, is this the real thing?
It's all fun and games until you hear real world.
Yeah, exactly. But it was an exercise. So when I get to Nellis, one day we were playing, they were going to do an exercise, and I'm like, aren't we doing, you know, after being in Korea for 15 months, because I extended so I could come back to Nellis after I met Scott, because I was headed back to Texas. I'm like, this isn't how you play war games. No. not even close. But got to Nellis, I was able to get here because of the F4s. They put me in the phase docks, which that was okay. It was a clique of people that had been at George Air Force Base, so I was an outsider, so that made it a little difficult.
Yeah.
But I survived.
Yeah.
Got here in February, September, went to Turkey again. I'd been in Turkey in 77, went back in 94. Some things had changed, and a lot had not changed in that time period.
It's the way the world works, though.
I know, but yeah, I was... the first time in Turkey was actually a young airman, kind of scary, you know, and the Turks would come up, marry me, take me to States. No, go away. And when I was in Spain, a friend was packing out and I was helping him. And the movers were like, no, you can't be American. Americans are all blonde hair and blue eyes. I go, no, I'm American.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting to see the way the world thinks about America when you get there, and they have their own preconceived notions. And once
Yes.
you're actually there, I think now that with the internet, that's kind of faded away a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit. But
yeah, but in the 70s and
Yeah.
80s, I mean, it was just what they saw on TV if they saw it or something. So, but yeah, so like I said, I still wanted, I always wanted to be in law enforcement. It didn't work out, but I stuck with aircraft maintenance.
yeah,
Patience, perseverance, fortitude. There was a backseater for an F-15 female pilot one day spoke at an event, and she said those three things. I said, hey, ma'am, can I use that? Because that's what you had to do.
yeah,
I mean, there'd be days I'd come home, like every bone in my body ached, every muscle ached, and it was like, I'm going to do my job, and I'd have to work 3 times as hard
yeah.
to prove myself. But that's what I did.
And you came out on top.
Yes, my husband and I were going to retire as master sergeants, and I got made senior in E8. I'm like, nope, I'm staying. I worked too long, too hard, and plus it was a rank higher than my ex-husband. Just a little bit of dig there.
Love it. So you got chosen to help stand up the first unmanned.
Yes. So in '95, when the F4s were shutting down, one day I was in my hangar, and they brought in this big long casket. I'm like, what is that? General Mosley was the 57th Wing commander at the time, and the 4-star at ACC said, we want the UAV program. Go down to Fort Huachuca, get one, and make it happen. So he sent some people down. They brought back a casket with his airplane in it. And it's like, okay, well, how are we going to get it out of here? How are we going to set it up? So they finally figured out. We had some contractors come in and help us.
Yeah.
And the 4-star said, we're going to make this happen. So General Mosley's like, okay. So we had a team come in from headquarters to set things up. And we sat there over the chapel, and it's like, what do you need? We go, we don't know. First, if we're going to do Indian Springs, we need transportation. We don't know what we need. It takes avgas, low lead.
Yeah.
We need to get gas. So we started with 55-gallon drums and hand cranked to fuel airplanes. We had no tech orders. It was still an Army program. So I went to Fort Huachuca in Sierra Vista, Arizona for my training. And I led the first group of the official Air Force folks. There had been some people that had been down there working with the Army and working with the contractors. So we went down, and in September of '96, we headed over to Tazar, Hungary for our first official deployment. So I took a group over there, and during that time, in I think it was November, early December, we took the program away from the Army with a formal change of command ceremony. The politics was horrible. It's like, this person can speak, that one can't, this can be here, and this can be there. It's like, okay. Thanksgiving, I counted 23 stars came through, between 1 stars and 4 stars. They wanted to see our program, and I'm like, can't you people just stay home so we can have Thanksgiving, But no, dog and pony show.
Yeah.
So, it was interesting. We were doing the Serbia protection, and we was there on an Army base. They would send the Army down, and we were there TDY, but the Army, they would say they were TDY, but they would make them stay 364 days. Because if it had been 365, it would have been a permanent move.
And then they get the pay bump.
And then the pay bump and all that. So, and we had a beer tent. So all hours of the night, rotating troops in and out of the area, bringing folks back. It was kind of crazy. We lucked out. We only had 8 to a tent. They were packing like 16 to a tent in. I found it was interesting with the Army. They don't empower their people.
No.
It was like you would go to an E7 to ask him for something, and I got to go find my captain. And our chief would he gets so frustrated.
Yeah, it's really trickled down with the Army.
Oh, yeah. And it's like you'd go by their shower trailer. Here's this one little poor person standing with about 20 rifles standing around them, and it's like 16 crammed in a tent. And, no, I've got to go ask somebody for something. We're the Air Force. We empower, as E4s can make decisions. So that was that was interesting to say the least.
So looking back at it now, how does it feel to know that you stood up one of the first drone programs in the Air Force before people knew what the word drone was, before we had cell phones in our pockets?
My husband says I started a big mess. No, it was at the time, it was like, it was exciting. It was a new program because my husband had been on the ground level for another Air Force program a few years earlier. But I look at it now and I'm like, wow, how far they've come, because we would be up there in the winter if we had a little frost up at Indian Springs. We're scraping with our credit cards to get the frost off. In the summer, by the afternoon, you couldn't fly because the engines would overheat.
Yeah.
And so I was up there almost 2 years. And just before they started the 15th Squadron, so we only hit the 11th. And just to see, we started with about maybe 30 people between pilots and intel and maintenance and everything. So when I go up there now for events, it's like, wow, you people have it really nice up here, because we had nothing. I mean, we had like an old trailer that we worked out of. A hangar had holes in it. They called them harvest bears. They were canvas shelters that they had to get people from Holloman Air Force Base in to fix so we could use. I mean, we had nothing. And to see what it's turned into, I mean, although last year was the first year they finally started a flying hour program, which I'm really surprised that they hadn't started it sooner. But to see what they're doing, where they're going, it's just amazing. And I always tell them, you have things up here nice now compared to when we started. So it was really funny. One day, one of the command chiefs was like, he called me a relic. And I go, yeah, I am. And when they retired the Predator, I went up for that ceremony. And the colonel's like, yes, and we have airmen working on this who weren't even born when we started this program. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm old. I'm really old. Thanks a lot. Yeah. But just to see what they've accomplished. I mean, because we didn't have missiles on them at that point. I mean, they were still trying to figure out how to, what to do with them to start with. I mean, you
just knew you had to be first.
Yeah, we had to be first.
That was it.
The Air Force had to take it away. It flew, so the Air Force had to have it. The Army can't. I was like, okay. We actually went out to California where they started them. Yes. This guy started it, built the first one it was a 3-car garage. Fiberglass. It's all fiberglass. So he just built it in the garage and started it. And to see what General Atomics has turned into now, keep building new things and adding new things and stuff. So it was like my baby to start with. So I'm proud of the folks up there and what they're doing. And it's people don't understand. I mean, when we would go up, we'd go up Craig Road, get on the 95. After you left the Santa Fe Hotel, there was nothing in the Northwest. Nothing at all. Now they've got interchanges to Mount Charleston. It's all built up out there. They're building up way past Mount Charleston, going up. I mean, and it's a lot easier. And for a while, they were giving the military extra money to do the travel. We never got that extra money for traveling, but it's a lot better for them now than like when we started. I mean, one night coming home, I was at Craig in Rancho, sat through, the light would never change red. I almost ran a red light because it's like, the other traffic's moving. Why can't I head east on Craig at 3 a.m? But a lot of things have changed, and it's with a 215 going up, and it's a lot better for them. Yeah, they've got a lot more stuff up there. They're constantly building out. And I go up for an event, and it's like there's hundreds of people up there now, and it's just expanded, and they're taking better care of them, and there's more amenities for them up there. When we were up there, we were like the stepchildren. If you had to cut, because we were assigned to Nellis, if you needed to do something, you'd go first thing in the morning or afternoon. Oh, can you come for an 11 o'clock appointment? No, not really. It's an hour each way. Oh, so it's getting better, but it's just, it's kind of nice to see what they've done.
Awesome.
And they still, I still go up for my Air and Space Forces Association. So as the area director, I still go up and support them with things.
What advice do you have for a young airman or someone just getting out of the military to help them to overcome either things that they've experienced or things that they haven't yet experienced?
So first of all, if you're getting out, the main thing is to have all your ducks in a row.
Yes.
Make sure you get all your medical problems documented. and have all that in your records, because the VA's out there to help you, but if you don't have things documented, there's nothing they can do. So that's an important thing. I always tell everybody, if they're retiring or just getting out, make sure your medical records are uptight. Make sure your finances.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a big one, because I've had people get out that have been just freaked out. My husband and I, when we were talking about retiring, when we bought our house, was like, if we retire, can we live on our retirement pay if we have to, and make our house payment and pay our bills? So that's how we looked at ahead of what we were going to do.
Yeah.
You got so many people that, the fancy cars, this and that, and all of a sudden, ooh, I don't have a paycheck and I'm just going to take any job. Don't take the first thing that's out there, because some people just settle. Kind of have in mind what you would like to do, but be prepared for it. Know that, it may take 3 or 4 months to find something. So, be financially prepared.
Yes, you have to.
You have to, because if not, you're just going to freak out, and you're going to create more problems, and, it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
I never had kids. I always said I had airmen and second lieutenants. Although over the years we have, quote, adopted some along the way that we've come across, just to kind of help and mentor.
Yes.
But just do the best you can. And like I always would go in, and it's like, take care of people. It's not about you. And as they say, it's something bigger than yourself, which it is. But take care of people, look after people, do the best you can. I'm finding now a lot is like, it's not my job. No, that's not the right attitude to go in. Go in with a very open mind, do the best you can. I'm finding, so I'm dating myself, this generation, it's a lot of me.
Yes.
And that's kind of the wrong way to go in with things. It's, you've got to look out for others. And even so, I was privileged and honored to have the Nellis First Sergeants make me an honorary First Sergeant, which that meant the world to me. I mean, I was selected as the Air and Space Forces Member of the Year in 2023, but to be selected an honorary First Shirt, that meant more. It really did, because it recognizes my helping people.
Yeah.
And that's what I figured out after when I went through TAPS. It was the people that were doing the course. That's your transition assistance thing. It was horrible. One, the instructor, his wife was having cancer treatment, so he wasn't in on it. The other lady, she'd been a Coast Guard, had some bad things happen, so she wasn't into it. Because, I asked her, I says, are we going to learn how to write resumes? It's in your book. Okay, so this is like useless.
And unfortunately, TAPS really hasn't changed that much over the years. It's seen when you're in the service, you think of TAPS as a week off work,
right?
To where they do assist a little bit if you ask the right questions, but if you're not in it and you don't care about it, you're not going to get anything out of it. And that's what I feel like a lot of service members don't have that experience with building their resume, with credit and understanding it, because while there are those services in the service, the people that go to those classes don't utilize them properly.
No, and it's like they're saying, like, you should be planning, 10 years out before you retire. And it's like, at my 10-year point, I'm in the middle of my career. I'm focused on my career. I'm not focused 10 years out of what I'm going to do, when I get out. That's, because it's mission.
Yeah.
And, getting out is like the last thing. And another thing they do, you've got somebody that's getting out after 4 years, or somebody getting out at 20. I mean, the experiences that they've gone through are different.
Yeah.
What they're expecting when they get out is different. Yeah. So one thing, though, Nevada Department of Veterans Services has a TAPS program online. So they have resources that can go out that you can tap into if you're going to stay in the state, which is really great, because they did try to get on base, and of course the federal government said no. So when I go and brief at the First Sergeant Symposiums, I talked to him about that. I said,
Mhm.
there's things out there. And that's one thing with the first sergeants. I like to, because when I retired in 99, there wasn't really anything in Vegas
Mhm.
for people. Now there's so many organizations out there to help and want to help. Of course, some you have to kind of, be careful about. But for the most part, there's people that generally want to help you with the transition
Yeah.
and to help veterans and to help the military. So I go and I talk to the shirts and tell them about the resources out there. I say, it's no guarantee, but it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yes.
To let them know there's something outside of the base in the community. The community's been really good to the military. I mean, there's sometimes I think they could be a little better.
Yeah.
Especially when we're doing projects, it's hard to get funding for things. One thing, working with the first sergeants, we have our adopt-a-family in the holidays, so I blast that out to the community. I have a very extensive email list, and so I tap people. You got to help our airmen. I mean, times are tough. Last year we helped over 600 kids have a holiday, and that's important.
Yes.
It's things like that. Turkeys for troops. Helping, because there's some airmen. When I came in, airmen didn't have kids. It was like they're master sergeants and above, or
Yes.
majors and above. They had families. Now you've got like a one striper with 2 or 3 kids. Yes, they're making more money than when I came in, but when you look at the big picture, it's not.
Yeah, and times have changed too. Like people are having children earlier.
Yes.
But I've also noticed we have a lot more people that never have children in the first place.
So it's one extreme or the other.
Yes.
So, yeah, I was one of those. My mother was very strict growing up, and I didn't want to do that to a kid. Give me a $1 billion airplane piece of cake. But, yeah, no, there's just, do the best you can, work hard, try and, have a reason what you want to do, set goals. Yeah, here I was never like one to set goals. I just kind of rolled with the punches and, did what we did.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there's so many things out there to help people now and take advantage of it.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many different programs. Like there's the $1 Million Airman, the $1 Million Sailor programs that if you reach out to them in the early stages of your career, they will teach you how to, by the time you hit 20 years, have $1 million in your retirement account.
Oh, I didn't know about
by teaching you how to utilize your BAS and BAH and use that for investments, and they tell you to purchase a property every time you PCS, and then when you PCS, you turn that into a rental property, and then you give it access to people that were in your unit.
And actually, I know though, but like in the mid 90s, so there was a lot of military that when the housing market crashed, a lot of them, it was really bad. Yeah, a lot of them, they had a $400,000 house that was only worth $200,000. And after I left the military, I did work at the bank on base, and I would see some of those people. And I was like, that's why my husband and I, we planned, set up our future of what we could afford.
Yes.
And that's, you've got to think ahead of that. You've got to, like Dave Ramsey says, have your emergency funds set aside, and pay off your bills. We pay off credit cards every month, so it's discipline. You've got to have the discipline to do that.
And that's the thing, bare minimums, you need to have 3 months ahead at all times.
At least, so that was one thing, when I was a young airman, I did the paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And it's hard. But yeah, so especially, things are so much more expensive now.
Oh yeah, but they haven't gone up at the same rate. Like
no.
The cost. I was talking about this the other day. When I was in college, you could go to Taco Bell and get a beefy 5-layer burrito for 89 cents. Now that exact same burrito is $4.29, and they're smaller than they were.
Yes, shrinkflation.
But that's the thing too, is wages haven't gone up in that same rate.
No, they haven't.
So wages have not 4x'd, but the prices of things have.
But that's the nice thing about the military, though, is, everybody gets paid the same.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what race you are, what sex you are. You're an airman. This is what an airman gets paid. And it doesn't matter what job. Well, of course, there's some jobs that have specialty career fields. They get bonus pay. But for the most part, everybody's getting paid the same for doing the same job. And that, that doesn't happen in the outside.
No.
So, and I know another thing too is hard for people like chiefs or colonels. They think they're just going to get out and get right into a management position. No, that doesn't always work that way. You got to kind of start at the bottom. But then there's a lot of people that say, I don't want any management responsibility. I just want to be a worker bee. And that's when I started working at the bank. I was a part-time teller, got to full-time. Then the next thing I'm the manager. And I was like, okay. But
I don't think you could get away from management if you tried.
Yeah, I know. Well, I did. I retired. But I still do, you know, a lot of different things on the outside. So I do my Air and Space Forces Association, which is educate, advocate, support, take care of our airmen, our guardians. Do that, help the base with different things, help the units, you know, for annual awards and different programs. I have the whole West area from Arizona up and over because I'm a national director. Just helping, you know, build chapters and, you know, take care of our troops. One of my other projects I do is I do funeral services for unaccompanied veterans on Thursday mornings. That's out at Boulder City, out at the Veterans Cemetery. We have, they may be either abandoned or they come through social services. They have no family. And we go out and we do a funeral service for them with the Patriot Guard riders. The honor guard for that branch of service comes out and does the flagpole. We read a service and we lay them to rest. And that's really important. After I left the bank, for 9 years, I was on the Governor's Women Veterans Advisory Committee, which was supposed to have been a 1 year. It was 1 year Governor Sandoval did the Military Women of the Year. Well, we set up this committee with 5 of us, 2 from up north, 1 in the rural, and 2 from Vegas. At our first meeting, we said, we can't get this done in a year. This has to be a permanent committee. So it just happened to be the legislature was coming up. So we got to put in legislation and statute, and it's a permanent committee. So I was on there for 9 years. And it's just bringing women's issues up. And then they did a student council too. But it's just to work with and let know veterans issues. The United Veterans Legislative Council, I was on that. I'm not anymore, but that is where the veterans groups get together and on a bipartisan effort take issues to the state legislature.
Yes.
And we have been able, for the last several years that we've had that committee, to get at least 80 to 90% of veterans issues pushed through the legislature.
Great. Because veterans issues are bipartisan across the board. And that's the way it needs to be.
And it doesn't be like American Legion says that, VFW says that. No, we speak as one voice when we go to the legislature. So yeah, that's been really helpful getting a lot of stuff done here in the Valley. So I just try to keep people informed. It's like keeping the shirts, job fairs coming up, a lot of spouses looking for work, let them know what's coming up, and just communicate and connect.
Yeah.
That's my mission. And I work really hard at that.
Awesome. I'm going to cut here.
Yeah.
I've been fighting that.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, don't do that. Perfect. You good?
Yes, sir.
Challenges. 3, 2, 1. So, you mentioned that during your career, you had to overcome some unique challenges when it came to adversity.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a story that you would like to share and how you overcame it?
I know there was one time I was out working in the hangar on an airplane, and one of the supervisors came out, and I just got this really weird vibe.
Yeah.
Just really strange. I couldn't really explain it, but it made me very uncomfortable. So we happened to be right next to the security forces flight line shop, and I had become really good friends with the cops. So I kind of went over there and said, I just need to get away from the shop for a little bit. And one of the others, about 15, 20 minutes later, one of the other supervisors came over and said, "Hey, you doing okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it was just a feeling."
Yeah.
I was fortunate that I know some girls had been abused. I never experienced any of that. I was very fortunate for that. But just sometimes somebody would just give you a strange feeling, how they would say something.
Yeah.
There was one time one of the guys was like, called you honey or dear, but it was like, that's how they spoke.
Yes.
You could tell the difference between that's how they are versus, no, this isn't quite right.
Well, there's a clear fine line between
Yes.
Southern hospitality
Exactly.
and, hey, baby girl, how you doing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. So, so when you say the Southern, when I was in tech school, we'd go over to the Orly room, and we had a pool table over there. There was a couple guys from Georgia, and I would just go over there and just watch them play pool, just to hear them talk, because I'm from the North.
Yes.
We didn't hear stuff like that. So it was just to hear them talk was funny, and it was really funny. One time at the bank, my new accounts gal says, she says, "I'm trying to talk to this lady and I can't understand a word she's saying." And my new accounts gal had been from the Philippines. So I get on the phone, and it was a girl from Georgia. So she had kind of the Southern drawl, which, I could understand, but it was just funny that, it's like, she said she had a bad accent. She couldn't understand her. Sometimes I couldn't understand my Filipino person.
Yeah.
But no, there's just, I was very fortunate that, people, respected me enough that, I wasn't bothered. I know some girls did have a hard time. There was some situations that probably I should have done some things different, but you think about that later on.
Hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah. And it's like, maybe some things I should have done different in my career, but I say things happen for a reason.
Yes.
And that's where I'm if I hadn't done had changed some things in the past, I wouldn't be where I'm at, doing what I'm doing now, taking care of folks, being happily married for over 30 years now. And I have a husband that just supports everything I do. My first one had told me I'd retire at 20. I'm like, I don't think so. But no, Scott is so supportive of everything that I do. He's just so proud of me how I've come out of my shell to even be sitting here talking to you like this. I mean, I would have never done anything like this. But yeah, it makes a big difference. And it's so funny because Saturday we're going to the Air Force Ball, and he comes with me, and it's like, okay, it's my proof of life. I do have a husband, because it's the only time he comes out, because when he retired, he retired.
Yes.
So he does his photography, his computers, and his 3D, and all that stuff, and he's happy and content. Sometimes he will come out with me to the cemetery for services, but sometimes I pull him out. He does photography for me for events. If I do some events for the Daughters of the American Revolution, we do a flag retirement ceremony once a year, so I go out and read for that. So he'll come out for that and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes a world of difference if you got somebody there that supports it.
Yeah.
And even during working our career, it's like he might be going through a rough spot, I was doing okay, or we switched, but we'd be there to help each other out for that. And it was so funny. I was actually talking with the Military Family Readiness Center. They're trying to get some funds to help their deployed families do events. And I says, yeah, when I deployed, nobody kept, asked my husband how he was doing. And when he deployed, nobody really asked me how I was doing, mill to mill. They think, so I said, do you take care of mill to mill? And they go, yes, we do now. So that's changed. I mean, the Air Force has changed, a lot more focused on family than when I was coming up through.
Yeah. There's been so many changes as of recently. One thing that I see that's going down the pipeline is if you're mill to mill, or if you're married to a civilian, they're more likely to keep you in a foreign deployed for longer, and you get the option now. And they're not going to send you overseas if your family can't accompany you.
Yeah, and a lot of that too has to do with the medical program too, because especially if their kids or something have a medical problem, and even moving them within stateside, to make sure that there's facilities to take care. So yeah, over the the years, taking care of the families become really, really important, because they finally figured out that if the family's happy, the member's happy, and if the family's taken care of, the member can focus on his job and do his job. So because I was at an event that F-16 pilots were talking, and they were kind of limited where they could go, and some of them weren't the best bases to be at. And they said, I'm just going to get out. They're putting family first. And I know there's quite a few people. A friend of mine, he's in security forces out here. He was going to put on E8, and they were going to send him to some not really great place, and he chose his family over taking a stripe, which
that's the way it needs to be.
Yeah, and it's I think really highly of him for doing that. I know it was a hard decision, but family that comes first. So I guess that's where I was fortunate. It was just me and my husband, so we could kind of do that. But it's a different military now.
Yes,
a lot different than 1976. I mean, in 76 there's only 5% of women. Now we're over 20%. So, I mean, things have changed a lot.
I mean, even in my squadron, when I was up at VAQ 138, I think we were at 40% for the squadron alone. Like, half of my shop, in being an electric, half of the people in there were females.
Okay.
And then I know in, like, the ordnance shop, more than half of them were females.
Yeah.
And it's great to see,
like,
honestly. And one thing that hasn't changed between the 70s and now is it's really important. If you see something, say something.
Exactly.
Like, that's bottom line to it.
Yeah.
The people that are around you every single day, they have your back.
Right. And, and that's the one thing, too, with, the amount of suicides that are happening.
Yes.
Some people hide it really well. And I know when I go to the VA commanders calls, and they talk, unfortunately, a vast number of those who do commit suicide have never reached out.
Yes.
They have never touched base with the VA or tried to get services. They've just kind of kept everything within themselves. And that's just, that's sad. And you could try and talk and do some things, but I mean, just sometimes you don't know. Yeah.
And one thing I'm really happy about with the VA that they've done recently is, if you're looking for mental health services, it used to be you had to wait for a VA provider to be available, which would take 3, 6, 9 months sometimes, which is not acceptable.
No.
So now, I know you know this, but for anyone listening, if they haven't heard this yet, if you need to get into a specialist with the VA, and it takes more than 20 days to get into a specialist, they're required to do an out-in-town consultation for you and to allow you to go.
Exactly. But the problem here in Vegas is that sometimes the medical care in the community is going to take even longer.
Yes.
Because we are a medical desert. Because we don't have the doctors, we don't have the social workers, we don't have the people to take care of them. And this VA hospital here adds 500 to 600 people a month.
Oh.
And when they opened, by the first year, they were at the point they thought they would be at the 5-year point, because it was a new hospital and people just moved here for the hospital.
Yes.
So that's one of the things that they're fighting. When you had 500 to 600 people, I mean, it's hard to keep up with the providers because they can't compete with the medical downtown. You're like, okay, we'll give you a Mercedes for a bonus for signing. No, the government doesn't do that.
Yeah.
But I know they're working really hard to get the services, and eventually there will be a freestanding women's clinic over there.
Good.
Right now it's on the second floor of the hospital, but it has been in the plans for several years now to build a freestanding women's clinic, because unfortunately some of the women still get harassed over there, for mental health, and they've tried to improve things over there, but they're working on a freestanding.
And that's one thing. Overcoming those stigmas is something that needs to happen now.
Yes.
And that, thankfully, we are moving towards that a little bit. Now we're down from 22 a day to 17 a day, but the fact that it's still 17 a day
isn't acceptable.
Is unacceptable completely. And one thing I am happy about the modern age with the internet is they do have access for those out-of-town referrals. You can do stuff online now.
Online, yeah.
So they have organizations like Doctors on Demand and Telemind where you can go there and it's covered as an out-of-town consultation.
Okay. That's good. Yeah, because it's like, what is it? You dial, was it 811? No. What's the new number you call for suicides?
811, or you can just dial the VA.
Right.
Any VA phone, if you hit 7, it'll
Okay.
connect you.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Didn't know that. Because I still do my medical care out at, I'm 50% disabled, but I still do my medical care out at Nellis.
Nice.
So I'm able to do that. But yeah, and I've seen that change. When I got here in 94, we was at the old hospital, and now, then we moved to the new hospital, and that's just exploded. I mean, with because it's a teaching hospital now and a lot more specialties. So it's nice and convenient right around the corner.
Perfect. Before we wrap,
Yeah.
is there any stories that you wanted to share or advice that you want to give to a young veteran just transitioning out of the military?
Transitioning out, just get your ducks in a row.
Yeah.
And be open to what's out there. For those coming in, I would say take advantage of education.
Yes.
That is the one thing. I was able to get my bachelor's when I was in. I've got my community college, the Air Force Associates, which, I mean, it's for aircraft maintenance, but even still, take advantage of every opportunity for education.
Yes.
Because, it's expensive on the outside, but if you could get your tuition assistance, take advantage of any courses they offer you, any certifications, just make the most of it.
Oh, absolutely.
And take advantage of all those opportunities to do that. And just try to have fun, have an open mind. And remember, you are joining the military. It's an established organization. We have rules, we have standards. If you don't like our rules and standards, then you need to stay outside.
Yes.
Don't try to bring your rules, your tattoos, your haircuts, your beards, your everything else into the military, because we have our standards, and we're regarded with our high standards. You look at the American military, the US military, compared to some of the other foreign militaries, we're sharp.
Yes.
And we take pride in our appearance and stuff, and we need to continue to do that. So you are joining an elite group. Abide by our rules and do what we do, because we're opening our arms to you.
Yeah.
Leave. It's not about you. It's about a bigger calling. It's taking care of our nation and protecting and giving you those rights that you have the freedom to do what you do.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah. So,
Bobi, thank you so much for coming.
thank you.
Appreciate
Appreciate
it.
it.